I uploaded a video to YouTube which was accepted, but as it had copyrighted content, the video has been blocked in 4 countries: Guernsey, Isle of Man, Jersey, United Kingdom. I am very pleased that YouTube, which tries to permit free speech in a country that allows toadies on local councils to discuss public matters in secret, in the public interest, of course, has accepted the video, and I will be trying to find out exactly what I am allowed to show in the UK. Meanwhile, I am publishing this redacted version for the UK. Version 2 replaces all the Channel 5 material with printed text and voiced narration, but it retains a 6-second clip of a Sussex police officer, as I was paying for Sussex Police at the time it was made, and if I just told you what the officer said, some people would not believe it. The new printed material all uses this Times New Roman font in blue, and additions to the voice track are accompanied by the new sound box on screen. In March 2015, Channel 5 transmitted a copyrighted television programme called Breaking the Law, Bent Coppers. Accompanied by the sort of dreadful musical racket with which the state broadcasting monopoly often assails its viewers, police cars are seen driving about. A rhetorical question asks what happens when officers cross the thin blue line. The film asserts that it reveals how in Great Britain police officers break the law and how their colleagues go the extra mile to bring them to justice. It says that there are 120,000 police officers in the UK, but while most, they don't say how many, uphold the law, every year hundreds of others, they don't say how many hundreds, cross the thin blue line. This is Wikipedia's image of a thin blue line. If you are an innocent non-policeman, you reside in the top black line. If you are a police person, you occupy the blue line and should do so without descending from it. And if you are a criminal, you are consigned to the bottom black line without the discrimination with which Dante assigned different levels to sinners in the Inferno. 2 other more familiar images are used in the programme. The bent coppers, of course, around since Victorian times, and rotten apples, which, though usually in barrels, are mentioned by Channel 5 as if on a tree. We were told that the Met had successfully rooted out their rotten apple. The Channel 5 programme selected a few uniformed law-breaking criminals for the entertainment of the television audience, public hangings not being available these days, together with their colleagues who go the extra mile to bring them to justice. I was particularly interested in the Channel 5 programme because one of the police officers who is said to have gone the extra mile has the same name as one who appeared in a 7-year-old YouTube video of mine called Sussex Police Hall of Shame as one of the Sussex police officers affected by rottenness. In April 2013, a Turkish woman was going on holiday. Shortly before boarding a Turkish Airlines plane for a visit to Istanbul, this woman was stopped in the boarding gate area by a PCSO who asked whether she was going to Iran and whether she was carrying anything, particularly money. And when the woman said she was carrying £5,000, PCSO Alexis Scott took her to a quiet area, said that she was not allowed to carry that much money, and that she, the PCSO, would need to take it. She would not be giving a receipt, but the woman would be refunded by immigration on her return to this country. Worried about missing her flight, the woman handed over £3,000 belonging to her nephew. When the traveller returned 10 days later and found that no refund was available, she reported the theft to Sussex police. The case was passed to Detective Sergeant Niall Maloney, said to be a specialist trained to deal with corruption in the force. At first he hoped that the allegation was not true. He reviewed the CCTV and the suspect appeared to be Alexis Scott. Meanwhile, another 6 victims returned to the UK and the total confiscated rose from £3,000 to £15,000. Other electronic records confirmed the guilt of Scott. 12 months later, she was given 5 years in prison. Detective Sergeant Maloney thought that the PCSO must have put a lot of thought into the matter before carrying out her plan. Maloney's idea that Scott's behaviour took a lot of thought is odd. To many people who do not know as much as Scott probably knew about how Sussex police deal with complaints from the public, taking money from airline passengers must seem rather to have involved extreme stupidity. I know that Sussex police often refuse to record complaints, and that the vast majority of complaints actually recorded are classed as unsubstantiated. My YouTube video, Sussex Police Authority Spills Secrets, features Chief Inspector Natalie Maloney reporting to a Sussex Police Authority committee on the number of complaints from the public in the Lewes district which had been upheld in the previous 12 months.
None of the complaints against any of my officers over the last year have been substantiated.
I haven't enough time to recount my experience of all the Sussex police malpractice which led up to the consignment of Sergeant N. Maloney and Acting Inspector Niall Maloney to my Sussex Police Hall of Shame, but I've added a recording of my police interview to my website and will make a few comments on the Maloney page of the Hall of Shame video. The recording is of the interview that took place after I had been arrested, handcuffed and consigned to a police cell by PC Francis and his accomplice PC Wilkinson, after 6 people led by an ex-metropolitan policeman had smashed their way into my property, 3 of whom then assaulted me. I was accused of harassing 2 of the 3 people who had assaulted me. It took me more than a year to get these tapes, which I had a right to by law as soon as practicable. After I had asked for them in vain from all levels of Sussex Police, including the Chief Constable, a complaint from me to Her Majesty's Inspectorate of Constabulary finally forced the police to part with the evidence that PC Francis had in his transcript of the tapes which the police sent to me, omitted material detrimental to his case against me. Anyone wishing to study the workings of a Sussex police brain, providing they have an internet browser which supports MP3 files, can access the link to the interview by visiting http://www.ggm11plus.com interview htm. This is the Maloney page of the Hall of Shame. Sergeant N. Maloney, on the 4th of July 2006, had a similar signature to that of Acting Inspector Niall Maloney on the 31st of August 2006. But it is possible that the detective sergeant in the TV programme is a different Maloney altogether. In case the page is relevant, however, I will continue. After I had been arrested and had the police destroy and damage some of my property, I was sent 3 witness statements from neighbours which were supposed to justify my arrest. 2 of the statements were by neighbours of the ex-metropolitan policeman Maybury, my next-door neighbour. These 2 women evidently disapproved of what I had written on my website about Mr. and Mrs. McCombie, and that was their evidence. They perhaps did not know that Mrs. McCombie had referred to me in my hearing as that little shit, that Mr. McCombie had addressed me as you wanker, and that Mrs. McCombie started a tirade with you motherfucker. This letter from me addressed to Mrs. McCombie was returned to me, and this was the envelope. The third statement by Mr. McCombie contained falsehoods, but was relevant as I was accused of harassing the McCombies. A dishonest report on my complaints about the police by Detective Inspector Preddy of the Professional Standards Department said that 4 close neighbours provided statements of evidence against Mr. Madden, and a dishonest report on my complaints from the Independent Police Complaints Commission included the statement, "As you know, Mr. Maybury and Mrs. McCombie have made counter-allegations against you." I did not know that Maybury had made allegations against me, and believed that the 4th formal witness statement was by ex-policeman Maybury. The introduction of his name and state of health in the police station interview were abruptly dropped after a few short comments from me. I believe that PC Francis, the investigating officer, arresting officer and interviewing officer, had prevented my being sent the 4th statement, just as he resisted my being sent a copy of the interview tapes, because he had produced the text version himself and omitted a section which related how in court McCombie had proved ignorant of 2 important decisions his wife had made relevant to my suggestion he was henpecked. I wrote to the Chief Constable asking to be sent a copy of the 4th witness statement. My letter, dated the 30th of May 2006, was answered on the 4th of July by Sergeant N. Maloney of the Professional Standards Department. He said of the court case against me, "That case has concluded, and therefore any statements that were taken are no longer subject to disclosure under the Criminal Procedure and Investigation Act 1996. I had not asked the Chief Constable for the statement with reference to that Act. A glance at the Act suggests that it deals with procedures leading up to a trial, including witness statements. I wanted evidence of criminal procedures by the police." Maloney's letter concluded, "This matter will require you to contact the Data Protection Officer at Sussex Police and request the statement through that office." As that thin blue line incumbent had not gone the extra mile for the Chief Constable and investigated any data protection concerns himself, Sussex Police's Information Compliance Manager made it into the Sussex Police Hall of Shame, 1 position ahead of Maloney himself. When, using the Data Protection Act, I asked for a copy of a witness statement which had led to my arrest and damage to my property by the police, this person refused my request because he had a duty of confidentiality towards the person who had signed the statement. That person was presumably the ex-policeman who had assaulted me twice and who had been harassing me for 5.5 years, using abusive language, postal and courier services, telephone calls in the middle of the night, and threats of violence in an attempt to make me move house. At the end of the following month, Maloney wrote to me again. I had obtained photocopies of Sussex Police crime records and asked the Chief Constable to enter into the complaints register 2 complaints about dishonesty in records involving me. Acting Inspector Maloney answered letters I wrote to the Chief Constable asking for complaints about 2 dishonest records in the Sussex Police crime reporting system to be recorded by refusing to record them. That put him in my hall of shame. As I was finishing the script for this tiresome stuff, I went to the first police page on my website, searched for the word Maloney, and discovered he was a spokesperson for Sussex Police about whom I'd added comments on a news story in 2013. This is the entry. 18th September 2013. The Argus Co UK ran a story headlined, "Ex-Sussex Police Officer Thomas Grant admits illegally accessing forces' computers because he was researching a girl he fancied." The last paragraph of the story quotes Sussex Police Detective Sergeant Niall Maloney saying, "Members of the public can be assured that their details are safe with us." I added the first reader's comment. Why, when the story demonstrates that data about a member of the public is not safe with Sussex Police, does Maloney assure the public of the opposite? Does he assume that the public is stupid? Or is it he who is stupid, or worse, duplicitous? P.S. A few minutes later, having read 6 comments by other readers, I added another comment. The essence of the problem is not with the lower orders in the force, or with extremely tired metaphors like bad pennies or rotten apples, but with dishonest senior officers and a lax disciplinary system for which the Chief Constable and now sadly the Police Commissioner are responsible.